welcome everyone to the ScreamCast, episode 35. We are dropping 2 episodes this week, everybody. Watch out. This is all Brad's fault. Brad's with us. What's up, Brad?
Yeah. Wait, why is it my fault because I schedule things?
Yeah, that's a good thing. It's Brad's.
I'm a scheduling master this week. We got crazy shit planned.
He's a maniac with the scheduling. Today we are talking the new Cult Epics release, Nekromantik. To help us discuss the film is Nico B, who runs Cult Epics. Welcome to the show, Nico.
How are you guys?
Good. Very well. Thanks for coming on talking with us. I'm newly familiar with this movie. I am a necromantic virgin, as they say.
Really?
You watched it last night?
I watched it last night, so I'm fresh. I'm fresh off this thing.
Now, I mean, since you just said that, what is your first, sum it up in a sentence? Can you do that?
What Nekromantik is about?
No, not what it's about. Like, just your feeling.
My feeling is, I feel like if I would have saw this when I was like 17 or 18, it would have been like
a life-changing experience.
It probably would have been like, holy shit, what did I just watch? That was messed up and disturbing, and I need to get as many people to see this as possible. That's probably
I still feel it needs to be that way, though.
Well, I mean, but this, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's an important film in a way, just because of the controversy surrounding it. But it's a grimy, weird, subversive, but it ends on a beat of hilarity. I love the ending. And so, like, that sticks with me. It's strange, man. I don't know. Like, I don't know who I could recommend this movie to. Your
family members.
I posted a picture of the Blu-ray on my Facebook, which was a mistake, and so my family members saw it, and they were like, they were concerned. We'll just say that.
Now, Nico, why Nekromantics? Like, what's the history with you, and why pick this film?
Well, it's funny, that Sean just said that. I mean, I saw this film in my 20s. And it actually didn't disturb me as much as only recently, 25 years later, when I saw it again. It disturbed me much more. So it's like, especially because, there are some scenes in it, and they're real, and you're going to go like, oh my God, I didn't even see that 25 years ago. I didn't even thought about it 25 years ago. We're talking about the animal scenes. Mm-hmm. And, it's a comment
that was the one thing that
it's actually comment on vegetarian, on being a vegetarian. That's why Jörg put it in there, I think. But, why Nekromantik? Well, it was everything I released is a natural cause of circumstances. Nekromantik, funny enough, interesting enough, I distributed the film 25 years ago in Europe when I lived in Holland, Amsterdam, and I had my cult video store. And Jörg that film was banned, and he couldn't sell it anywhere. He couldn't even sell it in Germany at the time. So Manfred Jelinski would sell it to me, and I would redistribute it back into Germany to clients who would buy it, or all over Europe. And that's my history with that film. And strangely enough, what was it, like a year ago, I ran into Jörg, and I suddenly said to him, what happened to your film? It's not available anymore. And he said, if you're interested, it's available for distribution. And this is 25 years later. So it's interesting,
Wow.
What happened.
Is it still banned in certain countries, or like still?
No, I don't think so, honestly, because literally, if people didn't understand the movie when it was made, I think.
Right.
And he had to explain himself a lot, especially also with Nekromantik 2, which is even more disgusting. And, it's pretty gross out to me, but that film was made for women, interesting enough. And I think this one was made for animal lovers who probably won't like the movie if they see it. But again, that's probably a misunderstanding. So yeah, what was the question?
No, I think you pretty much summed it up. I mean, I think it's cool that that this is something that's it made an impact, of course, when it was first released, and I think it's going to make another impact. Because I mean, you got the release over here. Arrow announced their release over there, so it's going to take the world by storm again. And I think the people that missed it, of course, are going to see it, and the people that love it, of course, are going to enjoy it in HD. Which one thing I wanted to point out. Jump the gun a little bit on what you did with this Blu-ray, but you have a Super 8 transfer and a 35. You did 2 different transfers for this film. That's incredible.
Well,
I mean, that's great.
I tell you why that happened. I can tell you why that happened because the original is Super 8, and Jörg, it's his version with Jelinski transferred it, and Jörg approved it the way it is. And when Jörg was in town a year ago, and we showed the film Nekromantik on 35 at the Beyond Festival in Los Angeles at the American Cinematheque, I actually really enjoyed seeing this really fucked up print. I thought it really suited with the feeling of the film I had 25 years ago. And Jörg actually felt the same. He thought it was the ultimate version. And so I suggested, why don't we just do a transfer of the film with no corrections, just straight out, one light transfer and no fixing, to get that feel of, the way you experienced the film literally 25 years ago. And that's what it does. And I must say, looking at all the reviews we got, a lot of the critics actually prefer this version for some strange reason. I thought the other version looks great in Blu-ray, and it's all cleaned up, et cetera. But for some reason, some people preferred it, so we put it on there as an extra.
Yeah, I watched the 8mm version, but
that's the one I did.
And I figured I'm probably going to watch this movie 2 more times with the in the 35mm and then in the audio commentary, and then it's going to sit right up next to my Faces of Death Blu-ray and kind of marinate for a while.
Oh, okay.
Until I get the urge to watch something like this.
This is something to go on the top shelf, basically.
So. Well, I think any horror fan who think they've seen it all, this is definitely a film they should see. And then beyond what you just said about people who missed it the first time around, there's a completely new audience, obviously, of people who are going to discover this film for the first time around because they're being 18, 20, and I don't know how it will generate to that kind of audience, but it will have another life, in that sense.
It's interesting how, because I've seen it for the first time, how people will react to this, because I think the younger horror generation, I feel like even though this is still shocking and icky, like it's not as shocking as it was back in 87 or 88. As far as things that young horror fans have seen on the screen, you look like stuff from like Gaspar Noé even, or even who's the director of Antichrist? I should know this, and I'm totally blanking right now.
Lars von Trier.
Yeah, Lars von Trier. I mean, people have seen those types of movies, and I feel like Antichrist to me was more affecting, like, as far as its subject matter and the things that it showed was more disgusting than what I saw in Nekromantik. But this at its core is kind of a weird love story. It's not necessarily out to, I don't think, horrify you. It's more a kind of these two fucked up individuals and their weird, whatever they got going.
Affinity for dead people.
Yeah,
falling in love with a corpse, you mean?
Right, yeah, and have this weird love triangle with the corpse, it's kind of an odd, I mean, that you tell somebody what the movie's about and that's pretty much it, and you can gauge from their reactions whether or not this movie's for them,
Yeah. I mean, for me, for this, I mean, a little bit of my past history, because technically this is the first time that I saw Nekromantics as well. However, I saw it when I was younger, VHS copy, but that shit was edited because I always thought I saw the movie, and then I popped in the Blu-ray, and then the bunny scene came up, and I'm like, I don't fucking remember this, because this is something that would have hit me, You know, because I mean,
oh really? They cut it out in America?
Yeah, I didn't have that. There was a couple other things. I mean, because my mind, I couldn't fully remember, but I know that it was shorter, and I didn't see the bunny.
But maybe subconscious. Maybe your subconscious put it away.
Could be. Yeah, because I mean, it actually is horrifying. And disclaimer, it actually is like real. It's not like, you know, they do kill a little bunny, but in a sense, it's not like, you know. It's during like a you know, obviously these people do this for a living, cooking rabbit.
Well, people eat bunnies and people eat chicken. Yeah. It's just sometimes more horrific to see them being killed than watching some special effects. You know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yep.
So yeah, when I saw it, it shocked me too. I was like, holy shit! I actually haven't seen this movie in its entirety before. So, you know, the whole time I'm watching it, you know, I'm thinking it's fucked up. But after sitting with it, and I wrote a review on it as well, I started really contemplating, like, you know, it just seems, I just felt that there, you know, I didn't listen to the commentary. I tried to, you know, I wrote the review before I had any input from the director or anything of what this film was supposed to be. And it to me, it felt like it was a story of, you know, that was honest, that was brutal, of something that might have happened to him. Like, I honestly felt like this was a love story between, you know, a person and their girlfriend, of course, that, you know, leaves for another man, but that man is also a fucking, you know, dead corpse. You know, I mean, just the pain in the heart of, like, you know, seeing a loved one be, you know, two people split from, you know, meeting somebody else. And that's kind of what it felt like. But I've also heard, it's supposed to be kind of a dark comedy as well. So, have you talked to the director about that? Like how it's supposed to be like of a dark comedy to him?
Well, it has you know, depends how you look at the film. If you probably watched the first time, you may not capture that.
Yeah.
But obviously, you know, he's making fun of a lot of things.
Yeah, no, there is a lot of humor in the film. Once you, because I watched it on the, you know, Super 8.
Like those, you know, like those guys in the beginning in the pickup truck for the dead body. You know, that's pretty funny. I think the opening scene. That's actually Jörg. Jörg is actually in that scene. You know, he's in the truck.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, everybody I think has his own experience with this film, and that's how it should be with films, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is something definitely to strike up controversy, and of course it did. But it's going to be fun to see that again, especially with the people that are visiting for the first time. So I'm excited to read people's, you know, especially with you, Sean. I mean, this is your first time, so your reaction is, I think, kind of typical in a way, because you just don't know what to expect.
Well, Sean is the necrophilia virgin today.
Exactly. But that's the thing, though. Like, everyone kind of approaches horror at a different level. Like, Brad and I we both have different tastes in horror. Like, Brad really likes slasher flicks. I really like more kind of fantastical, like monster movies. Those are what kind of, the kind of horror films I seek out, you know. But I have never really sought out like anything that I know is just going to be disturbing. Like, but that's a whole other kind of level of horror. Like, there's people that search out things like Nekromantik and like Faces of Death, and those are the only two that I'm really familiar with. But there's just there's a whole other underbelly.
Yeah, there's a whole
the
industry dedicated to this type of shit, you know.
Yeah,
but it just depends on whether it's tasteless or whether there's actually a story behind it or some meaning. Because I mean, some people just want to make ultra brutal, you know, films that, you know, is just being mean just for the sake of being mean. And other times they are brutal, but maybe they have a reason to be, you know, maybe there's a story behind it between the characters, or maybe there's actually like an underlying meaning for the filmmaker, like trying to make a statement, you know, it just all depends.
I suggest to listen to the commentary, also in the interview. I mean, to me, this film, as all of my cult epics releases it's an artistic film. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely of an artistic mind. It's not just some slasher or, you know, zombie movie or serial killer. Well, there's some serial killer films I like too, because they're all psychological. This film has some psychological aspects going on, if you really think about it. And it's kind of an art house film in one way. On the other hand, it's a horror film, and it's an underground film because it was done for such little money, for a small budget on Super 8 at the time. But it's definitely an original, and it's one of a kind, I think.
Yeah, no, totally. Now you mentioned that you, with your line that you release, art films and stuff like that. I mean, now do you just choose, like personal experience, like something that maybe hit you hard at a time? Because I know we have everything from like Deathbed you've released to, like the Licorice Quartet to Tinto Brass films.
Yeah, a lot of these films, though, I didn't see before. It just happened to come to me, and I don't go to film festivals to look for films. It just happened to be that somebody contacts me, and I didn't even know about the film. Like Radley Metzger, who did Licorice Quartet, I didn't even see his films before. But when I saw somebody mentioned him, another artist I worked with, Anna Biller, who did this movie Viva, which is kind of like a Russ Meyer meets Ursula Gordon-Lewis sexploitation flick, except it was made now on 35 millimeter, and it looks fantastic. And he said he was inspired by both, Gordon-Lewis and Radley Metzger, and I never heard of Radley because in Europe his films were never released on video, and so I never was aware of them. So when I watched them all, I just noticed that they were fantastically made, and I suddenly understood that he was like an auteur, like a real, filmmaker who had his own vision. And the problem was that because the transfers looked so bad, you couldn't even see the pictures sometimes clearly. These films are made on a larger budget, fantastic cinematography, and it looked so bad with these earlier releases. And that actually made me want to reissue them because I figured with Blu-ray now you can get so much more of the picture. And when I called Radley, he agreed. And 2 months prior, I never saw any of Radley's films. So that's how it goes sometimes. And sometimes it takes me like a film like In a Glass Cage by Filarango, which is one of the most disturbing films I ever saw, kind of in the line of Salo, these kind of films. And that's a horror film, that's a psychological horror film about a Nazi doctor who tortures young children. And it's a Spanish film, and it's very disturbing. I mean, I showed it at many film festivals, and people to this day, walk out or they don't know how to react. But with a film like that, I wanted the rights for like 7 years. I've been talking to the distributor, and then finally they said, we never sold the rights, and they were available, and I got them. And it took me another 10 years to get the negative and make a Blu-ray out of it. So that's a period of 17 years. But you have to understand, there's a lot of films I work on at the same time, so some of them take forever, and some of them go right away. I don't know.
When you say you try to get a hold of the the film elements, is it trying to track down the collector or track down somebody?
No. In the Glass Cage, for instance, the problem was the negative was held by the Spanish government because of the content of the film.
Wow.
It was even government-wise, it was not banned, but it was protected by the government in Spain because it was, I think, made in a period of time that there was control over these censorships. So anyway, only recently, when there was a festival, they needed a print. They had to make a new print. They released the negative, and I got my hands on it. At the same time, we could do a HD transfer, so that was pretty lucky. And I made a new print, which I've been showing at several art houses around the country in the last 2 or 3 years. Sometimes it's like that, it takes forever to get a film released, and sometimes the fans don't understand that.
Exactly.
There's so many different reasons, either legal issues or the print is not available or whatever, and it's a challenge to try to get it out. For instance, on Blu-ray, it's much harder than on DVD, because DVD people use any kind of master. But Blu-ray, really, to get the real quality, you have to go back to the negative or the print of the film.
No, I mean, I remember I saw I think you sent me In a Glass Cage, and I had no idea what I was in for. And that, Yeah, I mean, we have different, and I think that's a good comparison because we have something like Nekromantics that's, sick and twisted in the nature of, romance and comedy, and A Glass Cage is just fucking scary.
Right.
It's extremely sadistic.
Right. Yeah, it's a thriller as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just one of those, and it's a film that will always, be in the back of your head, and it's something that you can't unsee. And also, it feels so real, which it was based on a true story, right? If I remember correctly.
Well, it was based on some serial killer in the 15th century.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And this guy basically in his castle, he would kidnap all these kids and torture them and kill them and rape them, etc. So he, August, he didn't think the relevance of that to this day, so he placed it to the Second World War.
Yeah.
And there were literally Nazi doctors who would use children in their experiments and et cetera. And it's a chilling film, and but it's an arthouse film as well, and it's not an exploitation film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that's a big difference with my company. I don't really release exploitation films. I mean, there's an exploitation factor sometimes, but it's not an exploitation film in the sense that it just seeks to thrill. It also disturbs you.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, there's a reason behind it, and it's not for the sake of being mean. It's to tell a story in the classiest way possible, whether you accept that or not. I mean, that's up to you. But I mean, there's films that are just made. I always bring up, a film that got a lot of controversy a few years ago was a Serbian film. Because people were just, going apeshit over it, saying, people, you had the one half saying, "Don't watch this movie, it's crap, it's awful, there's awful things that happen." But I watched it, I'm like, it's a well-made film. Like, yeah, the content's really screwed up, but I mean, it's not.
Well, that's an interesting one. I mean, I remember the director sending me that and his first film before anybody else saw it. And, it was kind of interesting because it took him 3 times to mail it into America in the mail, because 2 times it got confiscated by the post office or the government or whoever did it. I don't know who. I can't
but they were in for a treat.
If they watched the movie, they probably thought it was real,
Yeah.
And but I must say, when I saw the film, it was a little bit too exploitative for me, so I decided to skip it and not go for it. And that one actually came to me. The director talked to me about it, and because he liked my company, but I was like, I don't know. So I decided actually not to do it.
Yeah, there is a fine line between exploitation and art house. There's just this fine line. I'm looking through. I'm on the Cult Epics website and looking through, all you guys' releases, and the first one that struck me was I'm just scrolling down here, was Black Angel, Tinto Brass film, Black Angel, that I've never seen, but like the pictures that it shows, it looks like extremely cinematic.
Yeah, no, that was his biggest film after Caligula. It was like a $5 million production, and it was never issued here. It's kind of an interesting film because most people think Tinto Brass TNA,
right?
Especially A.
Yeah, especially A.
But in this case, he made an art house erotic film, and it's a little exploitative, but I think it's a difficult film to market because the art house people think, oh, there's too much TNA, and the TNA people think there's too much Nazis or something. So I don't know. It's difficult. These films are very difficult to market. They either hit the mark to people or not. And sometimes with newer films, it's kind of problem. It takes time, and then suddenly it hit people that this is a classic, and that's why most of the releases I have are already had some kind of cult status, but nobody ever saw this film.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing.
No, it's definitely something to see.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, the biggest successes have been films like Chicky or Mon Amour. I mean, it's huge audience for that. even as big as horror audiences. You know, like probably big, even bigger than a necromantic audience. And I tell you, like, and these films, they are the one of a kind. They're the only erotic films made with storylines, etc., with bigger budget, set designs, actors, scripts, etc. And it's not like some Playboy fluff, it's the real deal. These are actually real great. Some of these films are great, and they're erotic. Yeah, they're erotic of nature, and that's because that was after Caligula. That was his direction he wanted to go.
I mean, even your box set that you just released of Tinta Brass, the Maestro of Erotic Cinema. I mean, you have all four of those in there. You have Cheeky, Black Angel, Mon Amour, and Private.
Yeah.
And I remember watching Cheeky for the first time this year. I was watching it, and then halfway through, I was like, what year was this fucking made? Like, I have no idea. Because it feels like it's made in the 70s, but this shit was made in 2002, and I'm like, this is brilliant. I mean, that just shows you he's not, like, there's a certain craft to these movies that he's doing, especially, like, with Black Angel. I mean, Black Angel was 2002, and it seems like, he would have made this in his prime, like when he was doing, Caligula and, what was the other movie,
Salon Kitty.
Salon Kitty and The Key and stuff like that. And then he never lost his touch.
Well, the difference is the girls are more younger.
Yeah.
and he shows
a lot more butts.
And he shows more. I mean, he really crosses the line. I mean, he goes to the line, okay, is this pornography? No, because there's no real insertion. There's no real penises. It's all, dildos he uses, whatever. Same as Russ Meyer. Russ Meyer always uses a fake dildo. And this is when they can get away with things. However, these producers would still cut his films in the UK. Most of his films were cut because in the UK you couldn't show even that. So luckily I was able to release both versions, the English version, the original Italian with subtitles, which is uncut most of the time. And lots of time I actually went out of my way and reproduced the English track for an American audience and show the uncut version with an English track. These are the special editions I did on a lot of these films.
Well, I appreciate that because that's what I saw.
Yeah, and then my favorite was always All Ladies Do It. It's like 1992. It was one of his first big erotic films. And the year before, he made a film called Paprika. Yeah. It all plays in a brothel, and it's the same script writer as All Ladies Do It, who also, I think he written Suspiria, which is obviously a horror film. He written some big movies, this guy. And the other film, besides All Ladies Do It, which is out of print, he did Paprika, which I'll be releasing in April next year, which I'm pretty excited about because that took me about 10 years to find the rights for.
Wow.
So that's going to be a big release because that's TNA and with a great script and beautiful women and a real Tinto classic, I think.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's something definitely. And now, how many things because you mentioned a couple times already that you've spent, numerous years trying to get these off the ground. How many things fall through the cracks that, you don't get?
Well, sometimes it happens that I'm after a movie, and then, of course, there's other distributors, and the problem is when I announce something like Mexico Central High, then other distributors start offering more money, and then then it kind of loses my interest simply because that's not my purpose. My purpose is to reissue films which nobody could find before.
Yeah,
and wanted to have, and then it's the end of my job because at least it's getting out, and I don't have to do the work. And so it's kind of like that's kind of how it goes and comes around.
Oh, that's a pretty good attitude to have about it. So we talking to different people, we kind of see both sides where people get certain distributors get really upset, when things fall through the cracks. Some are more vocal than others. I was trying to be subtle.
Well, whatever's meant to be is meant to be, I think. Yeah. And you can't stop other people doing what they're doing. and feeling bitter about it. There's no use of it. So just have to, I actually last year I thought, okay, I'm kind of done. And then suddenly, Jörg comes along, and then this other director comes along. I can't talk about it yet. And I'm kind of like, okay, all right. And then this comes along, and I'm suddenly I have like 20 films on my plate that I'm working on right now. So, and some of them are bigger releases than I ever did. I never thought about it, some of these films. And they just come around, I meet the director, and they say, oh, the rights are available, and there we go. And but I'm excited because with Jörg now it's kind of a continuing story, I guess, because next up is Nekromantik 2 as well.
I was just about to ask about that.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll be about March, April, something like that. So it should be coming out. Yeah. And we're working on it right now. We just finished all the extras and stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I just on Facebook today I put not Facebook but someone was talking about it somewhere, because obviously I'm not talking about it on Facebook right now. But because don't want people to get upset.
I don't even go on Facebook. Yeah. I don't even want to know about it.
Well, I think it was I'm a member of there's certain groups where I kind of try to keep all my movie talk, and they were talking about Nekromantik, the Blu-ray, and someone had brought up oh man, I can't wait for Nekromantik 2, and they were saying that they liked that one better.
Oh yeah, actually I love Nekromantik 2. Obviously it's made for a bigger budget. You can see that it's 7:16, which is obviously a much nicer picture. Mm-hmm. And I love this. I mean, it's really a feminist film. Girl, killing guys for the wrong reasons, maybe.
So there's a slasher element to it.
Yeah, well, it's very gory, I must say. I remember the last time I saw it, actually, 20 years ago or something like that, and I used to have that poster in my cold video store in Holland, right? And I had a daughter, and she was only 7, and she had to always pick me up, right, from the store, and she was mesmerized by this poster of Nekromantik 2.
I still am, yeah.
And she said, I want to see this film. I want to see this. And I said, well, she always watched horror films with me, like Company with Wolves she loved. But I said, this one is too much, so you can't see it. But she loved this poster. I don't know why. And she became, actually, now she's 26, and she became this great artist.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty interesting. But I remember at the time, it really shocked me, that film, and I think it's a great film. But still, my favorite Jörg film, I must say, is Todesking, Death King. I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
I have.
It's pretty rare.
I went in blind on that one, and
okay.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
there's some penis chopping in that one. I remember.
Yeah, I mean that's the film's based over a 7-day period
about death.
That film has never been released over here on DVD, has it?
No. Barrel was going to do it on DVD, and then I think they went bankrupt or something like that.
Yeah.
I think there was not bankrupt, but I think there was some lawsuit with some other film or something that had to close down. But yeah, that one was never released on DVD. And I must say, there's this great, there's this homage to Ilsa Herrenkeeper in there. You remember that?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of Ilsa films.
With the scissors. When they cut off the penis and stuff. That's pretty way out there.
I might skip that one. I don't know.
Oh no, it's something.
No, it's actually it's the most artistic film he ever made, and it really makes you think.
Okay.
And it's amazingly shot. I mean, it's my favorite actually. That one.
So I wanted to talk to you guys because I know it seems like people who enjoy film or who are kind of obsessed with film, like people like us, we have a kind of different lenses when we approach a film. Where we're a little more willing to go into a movie that's gonna shock or make us think, whereas more the mainstream movie audiences think you're just ridiculous for even entertaining the thought of seeing a certain film. Do you guys run across that with people in your lives? when you're talking about a film or seeing a film, or does that ever come up?
Oh, I've been called sick and twisted before. Like, my main thing I always get is like, why do you watch that shit?
Right.
That's what people say.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I enjoy movies. It doesn't really matter as long as, it's not a fucking snuff film. I'm okay with it. Like, I know the movie's fake. Like, I'm okay with watching it. And I watch movies as they're meant to be, as a form of entertainment. And, that's what I love to watch. Whether it's sick and twisted, I mean, sometimes it's fun to be shocked, But,
yeah,
I don't know Brad, but honestly, I think all my films have an artistic value, and I stand behind all of them, and I don't think they're necessarily sick and twisted. I do think they're controversial, and I do think they're going to make you think about things twice, and I don't think they're for every age. They're definitely for 18, and some people have to be maybe 21 to deal with it. I don't know. But honestly, I mean, there's all kinds of horror genres, I understand, and I didn't release that many horror films simply because I guess the other ones didn't interest me. But the ones I did release, they're pretty out there. And I looked recently at the top 10 most disturbing films, and I think I released about 5 of them.
Nice.
And I mean, and I don't know why. I guess it's my interest, but I released Cannibal Holocaust in the early days on Laserdisc in the US. I released Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, which is one of my favorite films. In the Glass Cage is totally way out there. And I even made a film called Pig. People think it's, disturbing because there is no use of special effects in the torture film.
Yeah.
So I think that made people think. But again, it's an artistic film. It's not only there to shock you. That was never the purpose, actually.
Yeah, no, I remember watching because it's another one you sent me, and it was funny. A little story on that is that I watched Pig, and then I emailed you, and I was like, man, this is really fascinating, and I wrote a review, and then halfway through our conversation through email, you mentioned something, and I'm like, holy shit, you're the director. Like, I didn't even piece that together at first. I was like, wait, so you're a distributor, you distribute your own film, and you're a distributor of all these movies. Like, I didn't even put that together. And I'm like, holy crap. You
didn't figure that. You didn't figure out that B was the only thing missing.
I just didn't even think about it. Like, I wasn't in that mindset. I'm just glad I gave it a good review. That's all.
No, I thank you very much. But I thought it was very funny, actually. Yeah.
But yeah, that's you did the short Pig in 1334.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's something that I think Pig, of everything that I've ever seen, I wouldn't say it was the most disturbing thing I've ever seen, but man, that will never leave my conscience. I think about that movie every day. I really do. I think about it every freaking day because it's so real. What were you gonna say?
I said it's on your nightstand next to Nekromantik.
No, it's up. It's actually on the top shelf, so no one grabs it.
Okay.
But no, yeah, it's one of those things that's I don't know, like you said, it's very artistic. So a lot of the horror element is pulled from that when movies are more artistic.
Mm-hmm. I give you a funny anecdote, actually. I mean, it was probably more disturbing for me shooting it because I remember the first day we shot. I didn't know exactly what we were going to shoot, and I was actually, it was the weekend I got married, and on the way back from Las Vegas, the same day, Russ said to me, he keep calling me, he said, I want to start shooting. I said, sure. And the first scenes we shot were the torture scenes in the basement.
Oh.
with the penis and the cutting and all stuff. And literally, I remember looking through the lens and thinking of my beautiful bride, and sometimes I have to because I always do the camera myself on all of my films. So literally, I was shooting it, and sometimes I couldn't watch it, what was going on. Because it actually was all one take, literally one take. These torture scenes, and all the other things. I never shoot things more than one or two. It's maximum 3 takes if I didn't think I got it, But anyway, that was an experience by itself. So,
wow.
And it's only 23 minutes. But
right. Well, that's enough. That's enough.
That 23 minutes hits you pretty hard. I mean, there's a few minutes in there where I'm like rubbing my head and I'm like, oh man. I was like, this is definitely something that it's surprising that it's not more, it's not talked about more as well, especially with Roz Williams involved.
Well, I tell you why, because it's obscure, and I didn't want to exploit it. You must hear that when I finished the final edits, a week later he hangs himself.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He didn't even finish the soundtrack. I had to find a friend of him he worked with to finish the tapes he recorded, to edit, to mix them together, which turned out really great actually. And anyway, so I didn't really want to exploit the death of him, so I did really a very limited edition, originally of 1,334 copies, which was sold out right away, I think, in the first year. And then I did print 2,000, though, because in those days, the minimum you could print was 2,000 for some reason. So then, years later, people asked me, I said, you know what, I have 666 copies, weirdly enough. The difference of 2,000 and 34 was, the number Ross always followed. And in his artwork. And so there's a second edition somewhere laying around places of 666 copies. But that's so rare. I couldn't even, I got only a distribution deal with Ryko and then with Entertainment One, and I said, I have 666 copies of this movie. And everybody wants it. And they said, it's not enough. We can't sell 666 copies. Well, you have to have at least 2,000 copies available, otherwise it's not worth our time. So I was always sitting on these 666 copies for some reason. So anyway, then I decided to, when the Blu-ray came along, and I was able to, I shot the follow-up, 3034, about experiences after he dies, about his spirit and ghost. I decided to put it out together and do a new transfer of pic, which actually I love. I mean, it looked so great. And it didn't get away from the underground look it had originally. And we did a new edition of, but this time 2300, because otherwise my distributor wouldn't distribute it. Yeah. But like I said, so the answer is, it hasn't been around so much because I never wanted to exploit, his suffering, his death, and all this stuff. And so I never released it. But you know what? It was the first torture movie of its kind. And, except everything was real, which is, more harder to look at, I think. And I remember I got a call. I played it at the New York Underground Film Festival, and there was even a party. I never will go to these things because I don't think anybody wants to see this film. So I never went to these festivals in Brazil. I got invited in Chicago Underground, and they had goth parties afterwards. I never went because I didn't think anybody was going to see the film. And, we made the film so Russ could project it on the stage, on a screen, before his performance. That was the whole idea. That's why we made the film. Yeah. We never thought of it being released as a video or a thing as by itself, actually. It was going to be like a band has a projection video, kind of like Throbbing Gristle has that, or bands like that. And that was our idea because he had this experimental group called Premature Ejaculation, and he was going to screen this film in the background we made.
Wow!
But then that never happened. That never happened, and so it got his own life. And anyway, well, I did remember getting the invitations from, which was weirdly enough, from Warner and Buena Vista, which was Disney at the time, and I think it still is. I don't know. And that was weird. Why did these people want to interview me for making this film, right? Why did they want to distribute this disturbing film, right? And years later, it hit me when I saw the movie Saw, and how that became such a big hit, all the torture, etc., etc. It completely, I mean, even a film like Sinister with a Super 8, which I also integrated in my film in 1998 when I made the film, has the same feel. And even the soundtrack of Sinister, I was like watching it, like, whoa, this is partly my film. This is so weird. And basically, I didn't know that if you make a short film, studios will ask you to make a feature film. That's how it is now, you know. And the guy made Mama, and then they made Mama the feature film, same director, right? I didn't think that realistically was never on my mind, so I never understood it. So every time I get these calls, I just thought about it and never answered the call. You know? Anyway, but I think it was never meant to be. And anyway, they made other films like Saw and all these films, which I still think my film was an inspiration to many of these films. So,
well, yeah, it definitely has a cult following. Because I mean, even after I saw it, I asked a few friends, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you know, we totally know that, and, you know, we love it." And I was like, "Thanks for not telling me." Like, come on, you know. But
well, I did some screenings of the film at all around LA, especially, and I did appear at these places. I remember showing it at the American Cinematheque, and there were literally 600, 700 people. It was sold out. It was the opening film of a documentary, and there were famous people there, like Susie and the Banshees, Budgie was there, and all these different people. And I remember going on stage, and the first person asking me questions about the film was Kenneth Anger. I don't know if you guys are familiar with his work. And I love Kenneth Anger's films. And he came to the film, and we became friends afterwards. I actually shot a short film with him. And, it did reach an audience at one point, and then it was never really released because it's a short film, It was never released on or done anything on a big scale with it. But that's why it's a cult film now, because as time goes by and some people saw it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's interesting about short films, because I know, we just had a friend of the show on, who does a lot. He's done 3 short films so far, but I always think about that. I'm like, features seem to be where you'll get, where more people will see your films, but it's like, but the short films are almost cutting your teeth as a filmmaker.
Yeah, it's like a resume,
Yeah, but I mean, it's
like a job.
It's a shame that there's so many great short films that are unseen. I mean, there's so many short films are made every year.
I agree. I remember I saw some really disturbing films, and one was called Adoration. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. It was by a filmmaker called Oliver Smolders. And it was about this Japanese serial killer. This guy, he lived in Belgium at the time, and he literally cut this Belgian woman up in pieces, put her in the fridge, and ate her up. And the guy actually recently got freed. He was flown back to Japan, was in jail for a while, and recently they released him. This is weird to me. But this Belgian guy made this film. It's on a DVD. It's called Spiritual Exercises. And it's one of the most disturbing films I ever saw. I originally released it on a compilation on DVD. It's called Cinema of Death. I actually put Pig on there because it was out of print. It was not available anymore. I put up this film with Kenneth Anger I did. And I had this other guy make this film called The Poem. And basically it wasn't, I don't know if you guys ever saw that Spanish film about the autopsy. It was called, I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, Aftermath?
Aftermath, yeah. I originally was going to release that with his other short film because I distributed films in Europe at the time when it was made.
Oh, Genesis?
But then he made a deal with some other company. It was actually I never was able to find a copy, but when that film was made, and there's obviously a fake autopsy. It's a fake body, it's not real. But there's this guy, this Polish director. He made this film I think he made it in France, and it's basically the autopsy of a man. And I was watching this film the first time, and it had this Baudelaire, I think, on a Rimbaud poem called "The Boatman's Call." It's a very famous poem by Rimbaud, and it has this poem, and then you see this autopsy body, and his eyes are being cut out and all these things. But meanwhile, while you're watching it, the body is kind of like moving like a plastic rubber thing. You're kind of like, this is, okay, this is great, but it's fake, right? So I was like, okay, well done. And I said to the director, I like the whole film. And I didn't want to ask him, I think, is this real or not? I don't know. But then somehow I read in an interview later on that the body was actually real, and I thought it was fake. And then I actually licensed it, because then I saw the real horrific thing. I mean, shooting this, I mean, that's like shooting somebody dead and being cut into pieces. I mean, that's to have the stomach to do that is, it takes something. And then I saw it as a different kind of movie, and I released it on this compilation, Cinema of Death, with like 6 other short films, and talk about short films like you did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I always that's the thing, like my wife and I always talk about, where she likes watching like real like autopsies and operations and things like that, and I can't stomach like watching the real thing at all. But if I watch all these horror movies and stuff like that, I mean, I know it's fake, I know it's prosthetic, I know that there's makeup, but once you introduce the real thing, like we're talking about with Nekromantik, with the rabbit. I mean, I grew up in the Midwest. It's in a small town. It's a huge hunting culture there, and I've been to butcher shops. I've seen, I've hunted myself. So to me, that scene wasn't shocking, because I've seen that done. I mean, we hunted rabbits and stuff. But in regards to like, I can understand how, if someone's not around that scene can be shocking because they know it's real. But if it's, for me, like if it's a human being or something, and I know that I'm watching something that really happened or it's really happening on screen, I have a really hard time, watching that. So I think that's why I can disconnect most of Nekromantik and not really worry, about it, because that's not a real corpse. But yeah, I don't know how I would react to Pig. I don't know how to test the waters.
Well, I think you should actually, since you mentioned that your wife likes autopsies, I think Aftermath is probably the way to go, because that's.
Well, I think the other one, the poem one, because literally that's a real body, and it's the real deal. It's like,
yeah.
But I agree.
The poems on your on that Cinema of Death DVD, right? Is what you said.
Right.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna have to pick that up, because I'm looking at those films right now. I haven't seen anything other than yours.
Yeah, you can watch there's a little trailer of a scene of each of the films, a little clip of each of the films, so you can kind of get an idea what it's about.
Cool. Very cool. Well, it sounds like Nekromantik's been doing really well for you guys. I wanted to ask you. Yeah. I wanted to ask you how Deathbed does, and did Patton Oswalt have any? Did he help spur sales with Deathbed, the bed that
Well,
eats?
I don't know. He was if he was appear on stage. We had a screening at a silent movie theater, and I remember sending George the Patton Oswalt YouTube clip, and he never saw it before. And so he saw it. No, I don't think he saw it. He told me his daughter saw it. And then the Sitter family, when they did the screening, they wanted to invite this guy Oswald because they knew him.
Right.
To introduce the film, but George said to me, well, if he's going to appear, he's going to get knocked down by my daughter, because she didn't like it, because in their eyes the film is an art film in a way, and in some way it is. But then it's so hilarious because in time it became something else. It happens with certain films that become humorous, you know. And this film is a good example of that. It has like a serious tone to it, but then 5 minutes later you're kind of you're laughing your ass off. And it's
because
kind of like
it literally eats people.
Literally a bed.
But if you think, but when you listen to this Patton also, it looks like he never saw the film.
He probably just saw the title.
Saw the title or something, but I'm just kidding. I don't know. I mean, but if it helped, I don't know. Maybe it helped, maybe it didn't. But when the film was released in 2004 by me, And again, I watched the movie. I watched the first 50 movies, and I thought it was your average horror film.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, this Blue Underground should release it. Why should I do this? And I watched it, but in the 20 minutes, something happened. And I said, okay, I need to get this film. This is like the most amazing. This is a thing you never see again in your life. I mean, this is, if you see it once, and there's things in it you never saw before. It's kind of like the craziest film ever. And anyway, I released it, and it became a huge success. I mean, and this was probably pre-Patton Oswalt, within a year or two, we sold 30,000 DVDs of this film nobody ever saw before. It didn't even have a cult reputation until the day I released it,
That's great.
And with all the stories around it. And then since in the last 10 years, it's been 10 years, it still sells. I mean, it still sells, it ranks, and it sells, right? And I told George, I mean, with people now, literally, the audience really going for Blu-ray these days, I said to George, why don't we upgrade it? People still love this movie, and there's new people discovering it all the time. And so we decided to do a new transfer, which was very difficult because there's only one print, and we already showed it like 10 or 15 times in between at different film houses or film festivals. But I was able to take the scratches out and stuff like that,
Yes.
and it looks, the colors actually look better than ever. So it's actually really worth the time.
Very cool. It's on my Amazon wish list. I've been meaning to pull the trigger on that
okay.
one. But yeah, but I had first heard about it through that Patton Oswalt, stand up.
Oh,
That's
really?
when I first ever heard about this.
Cool.
And I thought he was just making it up. And then when I saw the announcement, it wasn't actually film. I was like, holy shit, I need to grab that.
No, it's something, because I mean, I know what you're talking about. There's at first, because it's set up as the film's set up as breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert, and
right.
that's like the acts that's there. But I mean, once you actually see the bed consume and start making the noise. Like the munching noise. It reminds me of like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Whenever the killer tomatoes are going around, they're making that little humming noise and eating sound. And when the bed starts doing that, you just start laughing because you just can't help it.
Right.
And,
it's kind of like a blob.
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, there's all types of films like this. I mean, there's even there's two films about killer refrigerators. And now we have.
One of them I love. Have you guys ever saw the one of Deodato?
Oh,
Or was that the washing machine?
The washing machine. You're talking
about. I love that movie.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like Pinto Brass meets Ruggero Deodato. It's like the best movie ever.
Yeah. Deodato did, the washing machine, and then we have Attack of the Killer Refrigerator. Then we have the refrigerator.
Right.
And it's just, and now we have. Deathbed. It's just funny how, the 70s and 80s portrayed, just simple little things as, as killers. And I think also in that skit that Patton Oswalt does, he said he wanted to make a movie called Rape Stove, the stove that rapes people.
That could be done, man. That doesn't sound too far from reality. I mean, I can totally see someone doing that.
Yeah, but no, it's. But one thing I want to go to with films like you have the Tinto Brass films, you have Deathbed, now you have Nekromantics, and you just have all this stuff. I mean, you're really pushing towards the fact that you're working so hard on the preservation of films rather than dishing out as many movies as you possibly can. Because I mean,
right.
we're to a point where there's certain distributors out there that obviously are doing it to make money because it's a business, but there's other people like yourself. I mean, even now more so since, what you've said on this episode is just how you've worked, 15, 17 years on getting something released, where you're very adamant about it. I mean, that shows the preservation of film because, I mean, if it wasn't for people like you and, a couple others, some of these films are going to be lost. And they're going to go away soon. At least, you're putting them on another format, whether it be DVD or Blu-ray. You're still giving this movie another, 20, 30 years of life.
Right. Well, on the other hand, what's going to happen, the same is going to happen like what happened in the 80s. and the 90s and even 2000s, DVD is going to disappear probably. Blu-ray is going to be some collectible market for people who really want to have a copy. And then the only place to watch the movies is digital. Now, the problem is with the movies that are released, they're too controversial, Nekromantik. I cannot get it on Amazon or anywhere. Nobody wants to put it up there. So what's going to happen in 5 years when these rights expire, you won't be able to find a copy or see a copy. You will see a bootleg copy or etc. And these films, again, will slowly disappear until there's a new medium and there will be new lights and hopefully Manfred are still around. But it's a circle. It happens. And it's more scary now because of digital. I don't get my films licensed anymore at Netflix. Netflix used to buy, to give you a big example, I put a trailer up of one of the Tinto movies, I think it was Frivolous Lola, on YouTube. Now, I tell you, within 1 month, I got 100,000 hits. And I had to block out all the nude parts, with a little black box. But because of that, people were so curious what's behind this black box. I remember I did it also with The Beast, I saw that movie. And anyway, it was on YouTube. In a month, we had 100,000 hits. And Netflix, they used to do art house movies. They were like, if you couldn't find anywhere else, Netflix has it, right? That was their motto. So they carry every cult epic release. The first 50 releases I did, they carried. And they would buy literally 500 copies, and it would do well. But when first time I put one trailer up, and I put many more up afterwards of Tinto Brass, suddenly I got a call from my distributor, it was Ryko, and they said, there are 12,000 people in queue at Netflix for Frivolous Lola. We have to ship them 6,000 copies. Can we ship tomorrow? And I was like, sure. And this is the power of the Internet. It's insane. And before nobody knew about Tinto Brass, only because of some trailer, thousands of people knew about it, and everybody would go automatically. You go to Amazon or to Netflix. Now, Netflix hasn't licensed a movie from me for 2 years, I think. But it may be due also because the distributors, sometimes don't sell my movie to them or enough movies to these people. And then secondly, Amazon, I can't get any of my movies hardly up because they're too controversial. So the only way, and I really need the support, is the audience, is to buy a Blu-ray or DVD for me to literally make this all possible. That's a big change, and this is very difficult. So it limited actually my capability for like a year to release anything continuously. If I didn't have a little hit, because otherwise it's very difficult to get all the other movies out, and some of them, don't get recognized, and some films do get recognized. Challenge. I
for some reason I've never thought about that perspective as far as like how all these rental outlets are just disappearing, as far as physical media. That does really hamper a lot of studios and that's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, movies are going to again disappear again. I mean, if Netflix does a license for a couple of years and it goes away, then where are you going to watch the movie? You won't be able to watch it unless you find an old copy on DVD or Blu-ray.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
Yep. See, Brad, that's why I buy so many movies, Brad. So I buy so many movies.
But Pompeii's not going to go away.
I sold Pompeii. I sold Pompeii. God damn it. I sold that the next day. But no,
I mean, at least you hear it from, and the people that are listening, you're hearing it from, obviously Nico has this small company who's, doing wonders and, isn't backed by, $1 billion, but $1 million company, like Shout Factory for Scream or, even Arrow. I mean, Arrow's up there. I mean, they don't have any problem. It's just, I guess mostly the biggest problem that you probably face, and you can answer this.
Well, I must say, there you mentioned two companies, Arrow and, what's the other, Scream Factory. They're both companies, actually, are interested in some of the same titles I was planning to release.
Yeah. Well, no, I imagine
which I wish them luck with. it's kind of interesting how it comes around. But you know what? The thing is, there are still 20 other films I want to release, and I'm sure they don't even think about it because they may not have a commercial value to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's mainly, just focusing on, because they do hit movies here or there that are, not going to be a commercial success. It might be a passion project for them or something they really want to do, but obviously it's not going to sell like, The Burning or, their Halloween box set or anything like that.
Right.
But what I wanted to ask was, the one thing that you think that you face as the biggest obstacle is just kind of like a promotional value to this, because how do you market some of these movies? Because you can't market something. Because I was just thinking one of my favorite releases that you did was Hysteria from earlier this year.
Right.
And how do you market? Obviously, you put stuff on the website. It's on, available on Amazon.
Well, we did advertise it in all the horror magazines. All of my latest horror releases this last month.
Yeah.
So that's advertising, and then secondary, obviously, we sent out screeners of all of our movies to press, and you guys got one. And that helps. I don't know how much it helps though. Because I don't go to every website to look for movies. I basically just go to Amazon and see and find out what's new or something, or stuff like that. But I think everybody does it on the way, and basically we try to get as many reviews as possible. Because I think it's really as people talk about these movies, and then probably the Facebook and stuff. But like I earlier said, I don't really look at Facebook. I just have somebody post any reviews and whatever is going on with Cult Epics for me. Just an assistant, and so I'm not really aware of this stuff that much because I'm way too busy with other stuff. But again, like I just said earlier, I saw that Arrow did some kind of Kickstarter to raise the money to start their company.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do the same to get my next 10 releases out. Because that's always a difficult thing. It's requiring the rights is one, but then the production, Blu-ray is actually very expensive. It's like at least 3 times more expensive, maybe 4 times more expensive than doing a DVD. And anyway, that's kind of a problem. So it limits me to release, more than 6 movies a year. It's kind of a difficult time in that regards. But on the other hand, because of all of this, I actually went into producing, and this is a big change in my life. I'm producing a George R. R. Martin film right now with a friend of mine, and that's is in the woodworks now and will be made next year, and this is a big production. And with, films like that, I can actually, my baby is still Cult Video, Cult Epics now, Cult Video in Holland. I can still release the films I'm going to release, I guess.
Cool. I want to go back to that. You said you're producing a George Artemonch movie?
Yeah, we'll be launching it actually at the American Film Market.
Miami Blues is like one of my favorite movies of like the 90s. So that's a big thing. Miami Blues with Fred Ward and Alec Baldwin.
Well, how's that related to George R. R. Martin?
George R. R. Martin. Oh, the Game of Thrones author, Brad. George R. R. Martin.
Oh, I thought you. Yeah, that's why I was so confused. I was like, "What are you doing?" All right, that makes a lot more sense.
This will be the first feature film written by George.
Wow.
Okay, cool.
That's fantastic.
I can't talk much about it, but I can talk about it because no matter what, it's being launched at the AFM, the American Film Market, this week through our distributor, Myriad Pictures, our sales agent, and it's goes in production, early next year.
Cool. Hopefully, after that, he'll finish the last book of Game of Thrones, and HBO can wrap that up.
Yeah, well, that's a work in progress.
Yeah, no problem. Well, man, oh man,
I know we covered a lot.
I know. I'm like, shoot, how do we wrap all this up, Brad? I mean, but you know, what I wanted to say was, like, when I started this podcast, when I had the idea to start it, I only really knew about a couple of, you know, I knew Scream Factory, I knew Blue Underground, and I knew maybe Synapse. But this year, I've really discovered a whole lot, just a wealth of smaller, labels putting out some really fantastic, especially horror films. And it's just been, for me, I almost feel like, I don't know if it's just because I just noticed it this year or not, but I feel like there's an upswing in kind of titles like this gaining traction. I know that 2015 there's already some announcements that a lot of people are excited about. Do you think, like, it's cool seeing a resurgence in these movies from like the 70s and 80s, you know, in a high definition format, with people putting them out that actually care that these get a great release rather than just finding some master and dumping it onto Blu-ray. So, I mean, I'm excited to see, you know, what you have, you know, coming out next year. Do you feel, I mean, do you talk to other people who own other labels? Do you guys kind of feel like a sense of an upswing, or has this just been going all along and I've just been clueless?
Well, you know, I talked to my distributor who handles most of these companies, like Synapse, like Grindhouse Releasing, stuff like that. And one interesting thing, like I told earlier, is that Blu-ray is really hitting the mark now. I mean, used to sell 50% Blu-rays, 50% DVDs, but now it's 80% Blu-ray. That's why, you know, when I released Nekromantik in July, I asked my distributor, how many do you want to print? They said, we'll do 2,000 Blu-rays and 2,000 DVDs. And with these extra bonuses, these photographs and stuff of limited edition thing. And I said, sure. And but then when it was posted on Fangoria, suddenly my distributor called me, oh, I'm sorry, but we got 5,500 orders on the Blu-ray. And I said, well, that's interesting. So, and the DVD, they had at that time only 1,000, which is now nearly sold out, because we kept that edition the same, because it didn't, you know, the thing is, we got the pre-orders, and what people don't understand, if we had to keep that 2,000, you know, only 1/3 of the people who pre-ordered would get the copy with these limited edition cards, postcards, and otherwise the rest wouldn't get it, and they would be more upset than changing only the edition. So we changed the edition simply because the demand of Blu-ray is much bigger than it used to be. And it's literally 80% of people, you know, collectors, I guess, all kinds of people who love horror movies or, you know, erotic movies or whatever, they prefer Blu-ray. And I must say, I mean, looking at the Tinted Brass movie on Blu-ray, the naked bodies in high definition looks much more exciting. I always thought that's going to be a great hit, because I figured that's how you want to see these movies. You don't want to see these blurry images, you know, and you see the girl out naked, but you don't really see her. And now you can see every pimple on her butt. And anyway, literally, you know, it's a treat for any fans of any genre. And so I think it's a great movement, simply because it's very expensive to make Blu-rays to do it right. And you know, and the audience finally embraces Blu-ray. So that's pretty interesting, I think.
Cool. Well, I'm hoping it lasts. You know, I'm hoping Blu-ray has legs, and I'm sure it does. Like, you know, I mean, it gets you you get a better idea of what it should look like on film. You know what I mean? And that's, I think that's the most, even with, like, cause, you know, I saw that I was going to be watching the 8mm version of Nekromantik, and I was like, well, how the hell is that going to look in HD? And I'm surprised at how good it looked. You know, it just represents the film better. And I think that's what people like who appreciate film, like, that's what they want. You know, it may not be a perfect, you know, perfect and cleaned up, but it most represents you watching it projected.
Well, but that was a reason, I think. I mean, when we did the Grindhouse version, obviously we didn't do anything.
Right.
But when Jörg and Ulinski did the Super 8, they kind of wanted to keep this kind of, little underground look by having a little scratches here and there, and not cleaning everything up. So you still have that feel a little bit. But I think for me, the Grindhouse version really does it. But I must say, the Super 8 films really shows everything for the first time, whereby before it was always a little dark and the colors were off and et cetera, et cetera. But now you really see the picture, how it was made kind of at the time.
Nice. Well, I may not be a full-on fan of the film, but I appreciate. I have an appreciation for Nekromantik and what it is, and I think the Blu-ray has a lot to chew on if you're interested in movies like this. I can't recommend it to everybody, but you know who you are if you're into this movie, and it would want to add it to your collection. That's for sure.
Yeah, and plus, just the release is just it's really, really well done. I mean, we got 2 transfers. Yeah. I mean, there's the Q&As. There's also his short film in HD. What was it? Hot Love.
Hot Love.
Hot Love is kind of like a prequel to Nekromantik. Of course, it kind of tells the same story about a guy falling in love and and he gets killed and he comes back as a well, in this case, as a zombie kind of. But it's kind of like the same actor, and it's kind of like they're doing something. But then I think Jörg really got inspired by Ed Gein. For Nekromantik, there's a lot of Ed Gein thoughts in it, and it became something of its own. The short film obviously is actually much more comedy. I don't know if you guys saw it. It's very funny, actually.
Yeah, not yet. I'm planning to dig in to all the extras on this one at some point.
Well, enjoy it.
At some point, yeah. All right. Well, Nico, I want to thank you so much for talking to us about your company, about Nekromantik. I mean, there's so much you got going on, and we really we wish you all the best. And we're definitely we'll promote the heck out of your movies. And I wanted to thank you for sending a copy of Nekromantik my way. Really appreciate it. I'm going to be posting a review on the website at thescreamcast.com. Let's see, the show is going to be up on Friday, so look for it in a few days. It should be up on the site. So, and then Brad's review is over on popshifter.com, and that's Brad.
I love your review. I actually sent it to Jörg.
Oh,
and
I appreciate that.
He said something. I'm going to send it to you tomorrow. Okay.
Cool.
Oh, okay. Wow, yeah, totally. Thanks, man. Yeah, I really appreciate that.
It is, Brad. It is a good review, and it's something I'm like, man, I can't touch Brad's review because I think you kind of touch on a very personal level on how you interpret the movie, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So I'll post it. I'll post the link to Brad's review in the show notes here. And is there anything coming down the line that you can? Any releases that you guys have announced that's coming up soon?
Sure. I recommend for you that to watch Nekromantik 2 when it comes out.
Okay.
It's actually, it may be more your film, I tell you.
I will do that. I will do that.
It's a different experience. Yeah.
Well, like for both these movies, the posters are very, very, like they're, I don't know. They're eye-catching, that's for sure. They're
right.
you wonder
they'll definitely grab you.
What is this movie about?
It's just one thing is like the cover of Nekromantik is it's a love story, and then the second one is like someone's just getting their head chopped off. So okay,
right.
But totally. I dig both films. I have seen that Nekromantik too, which I believe I've seen it in entirety, but I shouldn't say that because obviously I didn't see this one.
We'll find out soon.
I'm very, very excited about that one.
All right. Well, I want to thank all of you guys.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yes. Oh, and where can people find you on the internet, Nico? Is it Cult Epics on Twitter?
cultepics.com.
Okay.
That's on Twitter and Facebook.
Perfect.
And also there's a YouTube channel. I think it's called Epics Videos.
Okay. Great.
You can see all the trailers of all the movies, etc.
Cool. All right, and those will all be in the show notes on the website. You can find us over at thescreamcast.com. There's links to our Twitter and Facebook over there. On Twitter, we are Scream_cast. want to thank all of you guys for listening. 2 shows in 1 week, Brad. I don't know if we can keep this up, but it's pretty fun.
See.
We have a couple more on the way, and some fantastic things down the line. So I want to thank all of you guys for listening. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Good night.
Oh, don't tell me you're leaving. The party's just begun.
Oh shit, my pants are falling. Oh my god. Wait, I gotta get my chair.
Jesus. Are you in like a basement of some sort?